Hi, I'm Mika Frankl. Welcome to Cage Minds MMA Show. Keep up with what we're doing on the website, cageminds.com. Not to mention, follow us on social media. Cage Minds Combat Sports News on Facebook, Cage Minds _CSN on Instagram, at Cage Minds MMA on Twitter. You can also follow me at Frankl Mika on Twitter. The YouTube is Cage Minds MMA Show. So please like, share, subscribe to the content. Be much appreciated. Not to mention, pick up the merchandise over at nmproshop.com. We got great photos up on the Facebook page from Tapia Promotions Last Stand. Thank you to Franklin Romero. So go check those out and give a couple likes. That'd be awesome. Hopefully all of you are going to enjoy a safe and happy holiday. That's why we're getting the show up a little bit early. Not as much to plan for to preview. Also, want to make some time for the loved ones. So let's get it done early. Not to mention, we're going to have a flash flood warning. The Cage Minds YouTube, the website, and the social media will be flooded throughout this coming week with Fight World MMA 20 content, interviews in lead up to the show. Yes, 2 days after Thanksgiving, Albuquerque, New Mexico will be having a local event, amateur action, including a Fight World Amateur Flyweight Champion, gonna be crowned on November 27th. So again, be on the lookout for all the interviews, all the content coming to keep the local scene excited about this great event. Now, as for today's business to start off with, we had UFC Fight Night, Vieira versus Tate on Saturday, and my gosh, did the main event live up to the buzz. 2 top 10 bantamweights. I'll be honest, going in, we knew that Tate got the warm-up fight. Her striking against Mary Renault looked better than it ever had. Now, this was another step up in competition. I was hoping for a greater step up, but coming up against Caitlin Vieira, I thought the speed, the wrestling background, the high caliber experience would all put this in favor of a Tate who was going against Vieira, lost 2 of 3, and just didn't seem to have the allure, the nastiness. There was a lack of determination in her last several fights that had Vieira from perennial title challenger to, was that just overlooking? Was it good matchups? What had happened to the Brazilian that we saw coming off of so many wins? We get to Fight Night, and we get a 5-round affair. Miesha Tate was always pursuing and was always looking to be the one to initiate the exchanges and encounters, and sometimes doing it a bit recklessly. She paid for doing that. The 3rd and 4th rounds is where we saw Tate do her best work, pushing that pace, mixing things up, and even though she didn't get the takedowns, she would get a quick takedown and Vieira would pop up. You would see Tate be able to put Vieira against the cage. Early on, though, and even into those latter rounds, it was the power punching of Vieira making the difference. She was able to time the entries. Bad head movement on Miesha Tate's part, are more likely to say predictable head movement, gave Vieira the perfect line on where to land her left head, and then also crack big counter rights. Tate was busted up, her left eye nearly swollen shut, a cut under that eye, her forehead massively swollen up. Damage was one-sided in this fight. If you look at the strike metric and at the fight count, you'll actually see that Tate outlanded Vieira. But outlanded doesn't actually tell the tale of the fight, because Vieira was able to eat and walk through every one of the strikes that Tate landed. Significant, not so much when you look at the damage and the backpedaling, the changing of the game plan that the impact of the Vieira shots had on Tate. Definitely, but in surprising fashion, the unanimous decision goes to Caitlin Vieira. Back on track from prospect who had stumbled against Irene Aldana and Yana Kunitskaya, who were able to physically manhandle her in the clinch, to now a very, very well-rounded performance in stuffing the takedowns, landing massive body shots in the clinch, and those right hands were devastating against Tate. So Vieira puts herself right back in the conversation for title contention. She needs to fight with more confidence. When she was willing to throw, willing to let go of her hands, she did damage. But there were points throughout that fight where the hesitation and the lack of aggression, you thought, could the fight be going in Tate's favor on the scorecards, because she felt like she was winning more moments. The next step for the Brazilian looks like a matchup with either Holly Holm or Jermaine Durandame. Let's shoot her right to the top of the division, right to going against number 1 or number 2. That's how quickly this women's 135-pound division can change. As for what will be next for Miesha Tate, I think that has to come after, obviously, some healing. She was swollen up pretty bad from that fight. And Aspen Ladd is coming off of a loss. Fight with Sarah McMahon could be fun. I don't think we've seen the last of Miesha Tate, but it could be a little while just from how much damage she took. The co-main event, you had number 6, Michael Kiesa, against number 14, Sean Brady. We're talking about welterweights early on. Kiesa trying to keep this fight in the striking realm, trying to keep it at a long range. 2 eye pokes cause a cut under Brady's left eye. I'm honestly surprised that when you think about it, 2 fouls. You're warned backstage that Herb Dean did not take a point from Michael Kiesa. Counter left hands from Kiesa bust up Brady's nose. We really notice it because twice in the first round, Brady hits takedowns on Kiesa, takes the back, and then you notice a stream of blood going down Kiesa's back, obviously coming from somewhere on Brady's face. It turned out to be his nose. That did not affect the fight, though. As for the next 2 rounds, you would see Sean Brady continue to get this fight into the grappling realm, putting Kiesa on the fence, getting around to the back, and taking his back, getting him on the ground, hunting the rear naked choke, racking up 5 takedowns over the 3 rounds, and 7 minutes and 45 seconds of control time. Ridiculously impressive. Ridiculously. Kiesa moving up from 155 to 170 is a massive 170. To think about the advantage he was trying to gain at 155 is just crazy. So much bigger than Brady, even in this welterweight matchup. Kiesa is a guy that backpacked Diego Sanchez, Carlos Condon. This is how Kiesa made his bones at 170, was being a backpack. Roles reversed, and the Philadelphia fighter, the former Cage Fury FC champion, remains unbeaten, doing it against one of the best to do it, controlling that back. After the fight, Sean Brady didn't immediately announce who he wanted to call out, so I'm thinking maybe Neil Magny, maybe Vicente Luque, a Bilal Muhammad versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson winner. Later on in an interview, Brady affirms his aspirations, and it is that Muhammad versus Thompson winner, and he wants them in a Fight Night main event. Sign me up. Still unbeaten. Keeps it moving along. 15-0. Welterweight has some exciting prospects outside of just Khamzat Chimaev. Women's flyweight division, we had number 5, Joanna, formerly known as Calderwood, now Wood after marriage, taking on Talia Santos, and the fight was dictated by the speed of Santos. It wasn't just her speed to beating Calderwood to the Wood to the punch. It was the dip, rip, the head movement, the creating multiple angles, and then firing up that big overhand right. 2 knockdowns in the first round, the second time taking the back, the third time adjusting it was the charm. Devastating rear naked choke. First finish in the UFC, and Santos is now on a 4-fight win streak. That was 10 versus 5, so I just like to trade numbers. Santos goes up to number 5. And next for her, I definitely believe, is going to be facing the winner of Jennifer Maia versus Caitlin Chikagian. They do battle January 15th. And then when you get the Maya Chikagian winner, Santos is in a number 1 contender matchup there at 125 pounds. 19-1, more than enough experience. One more major win. That'd be a 5-fight win streak, and I think then it's time to go into the danger zone and to have to fight the bullet, Valentina Shevchenko. Also on the main card, Hani Yaya versus Krung Kang at 135 pounds. You saw the grit and the determination. A big 1-2 from Kang drops Yaya early, and after that the Brazilian is able to mine his P's and Q's. 3 takedowns, 10.5 minutes of top time, and the Brazilian has now won 5 of his last 7. Opening up that main card was also bantamweight action. You had sluggers Adrian Yanez and Davey Grant. I thought this was a surefire knockout. I didn't get a knockout, but what we got was fight of the night. Grant came out high volume early, big movement, spinning kicks, big looping punches, using up a lot of energy trying to attack the Texan. Yanez concentrated on his defense and won the first round with big damaging hooks. He didn't land frequently, but when he landed, it was with authority. Yanez also started to add up outside leg kicks as the second round went on. A stabbing jab, saw blood flowing from Grant's nose. Grant answered back though with volume, big hooks. And unfortunately for Yanez, he took the test and his chin passed it. As the fight went on, you could see that Yanez was kind of zoning in on what Grant was doing, and he was able to roll with the big looping shots, not taking the full impact. A split decision, an ultra close fight. Yanez picks up the decision victory and is now on an 8-fight win streak. Now, the featured prelim, we're all the way down to the prelims, where we had said earlier, talked about the importance of the ground control and the takedowns from both Yanez and Sean Brady. That's going to become an even more heavily consistent factor here in the prelims. Pat Sabatini versus Tucker Lentz, the featured prelim. Sabatini gets the takedowns, 5 of them in all. Outlands Lentz 101 to 11 in landed strikes. Had the back control in the first round, a double leg in the second round, an outside trip in the third round, some beautiful takedowns and multiple techniques. Sabatini, 5 in a row. I love the depth at 145. It just continues. Lightweight division, Rafa Garcia versus Natan Levy. I thought Levy would get off to a good roll here in his UFC career. He landed some big strikes, but gave up 7 takedowns. Garcia had 5.5 minutes of top time, and it took 3 fights, but Rafa Garcia picks up his first UFC win. Lupita Godinez, Loma Lockboome. Boomey came in on the 2-fight win streak. Godinez comes into her 3rd fight in 6 weeks. It was the takedowns, again, paying pay dirt. It was changing angles, consistently moving on the takedowns, relentless chain wrestling, 5 takedowns, 7.5 minutes of control time. Godinez has now won her last 2 at 115 after that quick short notice jump up to 125. There's no UFC this weekend. If they need a strawweight in 2 weeks, Godinez said she's down to do it again. Also in the prelims, in flyweight action, Cody Duran had to survive eating some big strikes in the first round, scored 3 takedowns, racked up 3 minutes and 16 seconds of top time, and outstruck Ori Quilinge 67-56. In the featherweight division, Sean Soriano had a blistering pace in the first round, but then 4 takedowns, 8 minutes of top time, and Shailin Dordambeki outland Soriano 90-52, taking the unanimous decision win, and the night opened up with women's strawweight action. Luana Pinheiro knocks down Sam Hughes twice. Some nice left hooks, outlands the American 60-53, and the Brazilian has now won 8 in a row. It was about the grappling, it was about the control time, and in the main event, it was about significant strikes. You can look up the numbers again to that Vieira Tate fight, and according to some statisticians, you will see that Tate landed more significant, quote-unquote, strikes than Vieira. That's really where judging of the sport is questionable, converse to the scorekeeping, because you could see there was nothing significant about the damage done by any of those landed strikes from Tate. There was definitely a lot of significance behind the heat and the damage done by Vieira. The Brazilian puts her name on the map, just like she had done once before to become a true contender when she took out Kat Zingano. Back in the mix and back with all that potential being talked about once again. Got some news for you guys. UFC news. All of these fights are for the December 4th event. Alonzo Menifield's going to be facing William Knight. That's in the light heavyweight division. Former PFL heavyweight season winner Felipe Lins. He's down at light heavyweight now. He's going to be taking on Contender Series alum Azmat Murkanov. And in women's strawweight action, Montserrat Ruiz is out. Mallory Martin will now be facing Cheyenne Bays. In middleweight action, Brad Tavares is out. Brendan Allen will now be facing Roman Dolidze. Those are for the December 4th UFC Fight Night. And again, one more time, on the local scene, CageMinds.com will have all of your coverage in lead up to and on Fight Night for Fight World MMA 20 this Saturday. Enjoy the holiday.